Rob Manfred, MLB commissioner, he wants this investigation by Major League Baseball into all of this betting scandal and the investigation that's going on federally and by the IRS into Matsuhara, the interpreter for Ohtani, and looking into the illegal bookmaker that is connected to Ohtani's bank account. Rob Manfred says we want this to play out fast, or at least in a decent time frame, because we want to show our fans that, well, we mean business when it comes to the integrity of baseball. I get all that. Here, and I understand why he wants to do that. Chad has laid out this week, it shouldn't be that difficult to prove one way or the other. I agree. But you have the authority of law enforcement involved with this. You have the feds and you have the IRS, and they're not going to necessarily automatically cooperate with Major League Baseball's investigation that's going on about Ohtani. They've got bigger fish to fry. And they're not going to jeopardize that over whether or not some player bet on sports. They're looking into the hierarchy of how that money was funneled to the person they're after, and then anything above that. So I understand wanting to speed this process up. Chad, MLB, if they try to come out and say one way or the other that this or this did not, this happened, this did not happen. If they're too fast, that goes against them. If it takes too long, it goes against them. I don't know what the sweet spot is to actually dive in and spend enough time to make sure you get it right. They've got to get it right. They have to have the evidence present if they truly mean the integrity matters. And they also should take their time to see what progresses from the legal aspect of this. Simply because the legal aspect can include theft. But yet, no one's investigating that yet. At least no one's confirming they are, or that Ohtani's crew has even turned things over to authorities for those allegations of theft for $4.5 million. You can't just speed things up because you want to, although I wish they could.
Yeah, it's not a legitimate investigation. I want to put that out there right now. It's not, because when you have a predetermined outcome in mind, it's not a legitimate investigation. An investigation is you go in open-minded with all possibilities laid out before you. Think of Kerry from Homeland, putting everything out there on the board and saying, okay, here's how we connect this, here's how we do that, here's what we're going to find out. But you can't go in wanting to know something and wanting to have a specific outcome. Major League Baseball, 1,000,000% wants the outcome to be Shohei Ohtani did not bet on baseball, did not know about his interpreter doing this, had no knowledge of any bet he made on baseball, and did not affect the integrity of Major League Baseball in any way.
Or did not wire money to an illegal bookmaker, which is also against MLB policy.
Right. But baseline on this, like, you could, again, when that first came out, I'm thinking, yeah, you could explain that away. He's trying to help out his buddy. Mm-hmm. Now, there could be legal implications that he would pay a fine, or I don't know if there's jail time involved or whatever for having done that. But that was a believable story that would vindicate Ohtani and not make Major League Baseball look bad. Baseball wants the outcome to be he did not bet on the game, he did not affect the integrity of the game. Anything else to them is unacceptable. So when you start an investigation with that in mind, and you're going to everyone and saying, I'm Rob Manfred, let's make this quick, and let's make this where Ohtani is innocent, because he holds the future of our sport right now. This is a big part of what we are internationally and what we want to be. And he just signed a $700 million contract with one of the banner franchises in our league. Let's get him cleared of this mess and get on with the season. That's what Major League Baseball wants. So it's not a legitimate investigation if that's the case, because we know that's what they want in this. This is where you need third-party people investigating. Oh, third-party people like, I don't know, the feds that are investigating the illegal bookmaker. They should be able to find out what happened in all this. And if Ohtani is legitimately the victim of theft, they would turn it over to those third-party investigators, and they would give them the evidence of what Mizuhara did to steal from him, and we'd have an outcome there to show that, in fact, he was stolen from.
Well, and that's part of, I mean, that's up to Ohtani's crew, not Major League Baseball.
Yes.
You know, so they're at the mercy of.
And that's why I'm very skeptical and cynical of all of this, because they haven't turned over any information.
Well, and also, I mean, do you hire a crisis management team if you're Ohtani and if you don't have something to hide? If you don't have a crisis to manage?
We should have hired that team before they issued the statements.
Well, one of the newly hired people involved in that is one of the statements where he said, yes, he wired the money. One of the newly hired members of the crisis management team.
But if that was the story,
I know. But then they
like the initial story from Mizuhara to ESPN, I'm thinking.
Well, you can't say that though. You know, if that's the story, you can't go with it because there's something there, and at minimum, he would be wiring money from his account knowingly on his own to an illegal bookmaker that's under investigation by the feds.
Yes, and I would like to know from a lawyer, okay, if I'm admitting to this, what is my legal liability?
But I think it's more about baseball.
What fine is it? Is it jail time? What is it?
I don't think it's that. I think it's more about the perception of what's going to happen with him from baseball.
Baseball wants to believe Ohtani.
But it's totally again. He would be admitting, if you're going to believe Ohtani, he would be admitting.
I believed him.
He would be admitting to breaking Major League Baseball gambling policy by doing that.
Yeah,
you cannot do that.
And I would have believed him. And I think Major League Baseball would have forgiven him and believed him. I think that was the most believable story. I think what's happening now makes him look more guilty.
But he would still be suspended for. I mean, based on what it's up to it's commissioner's discretion. But I mean, are we talking about a year for Ohtani, and then he comes back and you have that going too? And again, it's Ohtani coming off of the contract, $700 million deferred. You have the IRS looking into this. I think this also plays a factor. He would be admitting to sending that money on behalf of someone with an illegal bookmaker, and you can't claim theft if you willingly wire the money.
Yeah.
Which is what they turned around and did.
Also, I don't think you should be able to claim theft if you don't report it to the authorities.
Well,
that to me is fascinating.
They won't confirm that they have or they have not, and neither will the authorities.
And what is it? Tisha Thompson, the woman working on this for ESPN, she goes to every single law enforcement agency that they would report it to, and they have no record of it.
Or the IRS won't confirm it.
Yeah, they have
the other flip side of it. They either have not, they will not say one way or the other, or they say no.
Well, look, I'm saying if the honest story was he's helping out a buddy, he paid the bookmaker, it was a mistake by him, but he did it because that's what his interpreter friend said. He's naive. He doesn't really know what's going on. If I turn that over to Major League Baseball, knowing they want me to be okay and play, I think a 25-game suspension for making that mistake, I don't think people in baseball around the game would have had a problem with that.
They're suspending for taking roids right now. What are you? It's a 80? Is it 50 game?
But again, go back to what they want the outcome to be. They hate people who take roids. They love Shohei Ohtani.
Right, but they would have Ohtani admitting to it instead of the investigation that they have, where they can find out whatever they want to find out. They can control whatever the result is. They would have Ohtani admitting to be wiring $4.5 million to an illegal bookmaker in the state of California that's being investigated by the feds, and where the IRS is looking into it.
And I could have easily made him a victim in all this by his interpreter because he doesn't know the language. He's in the United States.
He's doing it on behalf of his interpreter who speaks his language.
This guy's a degenerate gambler, and I helped my buddy out, and I sent it to the illegal bookmaker. I'm sorry. I'll take a 25, 30-game suspension, whatever it is. And I think baseball would have gone along with that. Why? Because baseball wants Shohei Ohtani to not be banned for life. And now instead they're in a situation where they're claiming theft, and not a single person in Ohtani's camp will go to the authorities with evidence of theft. So if I'm baseball now, I'm thinking, show us where he had your bank records. Show us where he did this. Show us how he got to your money. If you can't, I'm banning your ass for life. So now it's a much worse situation to me.
Well, you're banning him for life if he bet on baseball, not if he bet on other sports.
If you're lying about the dude stealing from you, and you're not reporting it to the authorities, that's also bad.
But you also have the dude, the translator, who is admitting, and he's recanting what he said, and he's now saying, no, he didn't know until I told him. And that's what Ohtani's saying, until I was told in South Korea. He didn't know what the money was for.
Well, look, this could all be explained away.
I don't believe that, by the way.
If they show how he stole from him, fine. Ohtani's fine. Continue with the investigation with the feds.
Well, what we know is that the legal side of things, the lawyers are the ones that step in and they say, no, make sure we recant that. We're going to release a statement on it. It's those that are hired to speak on behalf of him that have totally screwed all of this information up.